On this episode of Eager to Know, the importance of staying connected to others, an innovative use for laundromats, and I uncover a new appreciation for my dad's photography skills. We all have a creative part of our brain, whether we use it or not, for generating new ideas, problem solving, and just viewing ourselves in this world. I am Ricky McGeckran, an artist living in Chicago, and I am eager to know and share with you all how people of a creative leaning have brought this way of thinking to the forefront and how it has shifted outcomes. Bénédicte Lassale is a San Francisco Bay Area based photographer focusing on architecture, portraiture, and lifestyle projects. We speak about her creative journey, her inspirations and challenges, and what it is like being a professional photographer in the age of Instagram. So, Bénédicte, being a photographer in 2019, with all of the technology that is available to everyone in terms of cameras, Instagram, I mean, it's just everywhere. Does that make things easier for you or does it make things harder for you?
Huh, Rick, that's a good question. I think a little bit of both, you know. It makes it definitely exciting, because there's so many more people that can say that they're photographers now just by posting stuff on social medias. And so it pushes, the real quote unquote photographers to their, limits and or encourages them to be, yeah, more creative and to look for other forms of expressions, but also easier because all this technology is available to you. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. And I just love looking at. So I'm a big fan of Instagram, and I just love looking at all of these images, and it it and it makes me, yeah. I think it pushes me. It pushes me for sure.
So it's interesting because I don't know if I told you this, but my dad purchased a camera in 1953 in Europe, and he took photographs while he was in the Korean War. And I have the camera, and he took all of these slides, and I'm actually currently using them as inspiration for paintings. But the camera, it's 100% manual. Like there's no, it's because I'm trying to use it, and it's very difficult. And it's not. He didn't have the luxury of using his iPhone, and
Hmm.
it just made me realize how much things have changed in photography, and on so many levels in so many ways.
Yeah, so you're using film.
I am using film.
You film. Yeah, this is how I learn. I actually learned photography with a slide, which is even worse, I would say.
That wait with slides.
Slides,
Yeah, that's
yes,
what this is. Well, that's what he had slide film.
slide films.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's almost like 0% how do you say, error margin with slide.
Because it's actually going right. It's going right on. You are developing the actual plastic, and that's what
That's
you're
right.
using. So there's no project because normally I guess you project it onto photographic paper and you can make adjustments.
Exactly.
So that sounds like the best. So you are the truest of true. You're a gold star photographer. Are there many people out there that have started in that manner?
I don't know, but I studied in a business school with Nicolas because this is where we met, and then I was a marketing manager for a few years in an IT company in London and then in Paris. And then after being so bored at work, I decided I'm just going to stop working for a year and go back to school.
Okay.
And so I went to my boss and I said, "This is what I'm going to do," and he let me go. And so I went back to school, and that's in that school where it was like an adult school, there was not a lot of kids, and so this is how they taught photography. And I don't know how they teach photography in other schools, but this was with a 1-year program, and the teachers gave us some assignments, and they said, okay, you could just go do this. And then we came back to the school, and we all of the students put our slides into the machine, and we would project them and looked at everybody's work and criticized the work. And so it was just an easy way to show pictures,
Yeah.
because it's just you know, directly from the camera to the store to the machine.
Yeah.
And um and at the time, our teacher, even though digital photography was already big, said that we could learn digital photography by ourselves, but photography, actual photography, we had to learn in the school.
Okay.
So this is how we did it, and it was wonderful. I used a Leica camera. Are you
Ah,
familiar with those?
of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I still have it, but I don't use it.
So do you use film at all right now, or do you use everything digital? You do everything
Everything digital.
everything. Yeah. So I will
Yeah.
tell you, I did not fully appreciate the fact that when you are taking the slides like you used to do and like my dad did, I didn't fully make that connection that you can't make any modifications. Like
Mhm.
what that's it. It's a one-shot deal.
That's it.
So now I'm realizing that my dad was a really good photographer because his stuff was pretty good. So I'm going to ask this question that I'm sure everybody asks you. Where do you get your inspiration for your photographs?
Oh, yes. Not a lot of people have asked me this question, but yeah, this is a good question, and it is an ongoing question, and like an everyday question. Um, where do I get my inspiration? Um, when I started photography, my inspiration was just around me. My everyday life was my inspiration. I wanted to photograph what was, yeah, just the closest to me as possible.
Sure.
And it was hard because you know it's easier to just go to Japan and take pictures of beautiful whatever street scenes or beautiful temples. And I thought that if I were able to photograph what was around me beautifully, then I could do anything.
Yeah.
And so this is how I started. And I remember when I was a student in photography, I did a whole assignment in my grandmother's kitchen.
Okay.
And my grandmother at the time, she was very old. She was 99 or 98 years old, and she could not get out of her apartment. She could not walk anymore, so she was in her apartment all the time. And I would visit her, and she lived in this apartment that she bought uh, in the 60s, and basically it was still looking the same.
Okay. Which sounds like that would actually be visually interesting.
Exactly. And she had not, changed the wallpapers or the sink or the tiles, and even the kitchen table and the kitchen chairs were all the same from the 60s. And so I started, yeah, doing some work in the kitchen, and I did a whole assignment. Um, and I actually got published in a good, Leica magazine for this assignment.
Really?
It was, yeah, I was, yeah, I was very proud of what I did. And so this was for me, yeah, a very good achievement. Just one room, the closest to me was my grandmother's kitchen. Be able to, yeah, find inspiration there was, yeah, it was great
Finding beauty and something very simple.
and poetic. Yeah.
Do you have an interest in looking at photographs from the past? So when you mentioned like your grandmother's kitchen from the 60s, I know one of the things that I like to do is looking at photographs of the past of everyday life because I think it's so revealing and interesting. Things that are not posed, but people taking pictures of in their kitchen from, the 30s or what have you.
Absolutely. Both my grandfathers were also good photographers, and my dad also took a lot of pictures of us when we were kids. and so I really enjoy looking at my mom on those pictures, the way she was dressed, and how they would pose in the picture, and it was just black and white, of course, because it was when in the 50s, and my grandfather took a lot of pictures of my grandmother, and my grandfather used to work in the military, and so with my dad and my grandmother, they traveled a lot around Europe and in northern Africa, and he took a lot of pictures, and like you, I'm very, very interested in looking at these. And my grandfather also made these beautiful albums, um, that we don't can't find anymore. Some of them have.
You don't know where they are?
No, no, I know where they are, but you can't buy beautiful albums like these anymore.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, they have leather covers
Hmm,
and beautiful craft paper, and my grandfather would write these beautiful legends with a beautiful handwriting, and it was just a beautiful piece of art by itself. Absolutely. No, and I have them with me.
nice. One of the things that when we think about old photographs, you know how you always see pictures of groups of people, like basketball teams or baseball teams, or just like a group of people posing?
Hmm.
It's for these really old photographs. And I'm always wondering, what were they thinking about? Like, because they were looking at the camera and like they were probably worried about something. Like, and what were you worried about in 1932? What was going on in their brain at that point? I'm always curious about that.
Curious. Yeah, I don't know. And they wouldn't probably imagine you so many years after looking at those pictures and asking yourself those questions.
No, never in a million years would they think that someone in some weird guy in 2019 would be looking at it thinking that. So let's talk about what you currently do for photography. Are you doing one type of thing? Do you work on multiple projects at once? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I do many different things. Um, right now, I am especially working for my clients. I have different types of clients in Oakland, California.
Okay.
I work for architects, and it's very interesting because so they need pictures for their portfolios,
Okay.
and so it's very interesting because architects are also artists,
Sure.
and it's very interesting to work with these people because they um, so they draw houses and then they build houses and then they want pictures of the houses to to show their clients, and they know exactly which point of view that they want, and after telling me which point of view they want, they let me just wander around the property and have my own vision of their construction and their buildings and their house. And this is the part that I enjoy the most. I just walk around and I look at different angles. I look for shadows and lines, and and most of the time they really enjoy looking at my pictures and picking the ones that show their building the best, but also um, in a way show my art. They like to they appreciate my art. Yeah,
And I'm sure it must be very interesting for them because being the architect, they are so intimately familiar with the property and the structure, et cetera. But I'm sure you are uncovering a view that they had never considered or never saw.
absolutely. Sometimes it's the case. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And depending on what time of day I am there, it will be completely different. So I sometimes go several times to the same property at different time of day with different weather, in order to be able to have different point of view. Yeah, so it's a very interesting job, and I like this a lot. Yeah. Other than that, I have small jobs with little clients like portraits, um, and I also shoot for a stock agency in Germany. So this is a very free work that I can do whatever I want.
Oh,
Um, so this is very interesting because I can offer them anything. They will pick the one that they like and put them online to sell them. And they usually sell pictures to magazines, to the press, to as illustrations for websites, for I don't know, book covers. They also use pictures for what else? Advertising.
so when you're doing that type of work, do you, so how do you capture those photographs? Do you go, do you have an intent of a location that you go to, or can you just tell me about the process of how you would get those types of stock photographs?
hmm so it could be anything. So that's the very interesting part. So I'm always constantly looking for either a new landscape, or a new light, or a new person, or a new object, to photograph, a different object to photograph, and it could be anything. I can give you some examples. Right now we're traveling to Japan, and so I use this time when I'm traveling to take as many pictures as I can of anything. It could be small little details. It could be an expression in my child's face. It could be a beautiful light on a beautiful building, or an action in the street
Mm-hmm.
of, a bicycle, anything. And this is very exciting to me, and sometimes even a little nerve-wracking as well, because I'm constantly constantly looking around every day, and I need to be up early, and I need to be at this time of day at this place so I can get the best light,
Yeah.
and it's yeah, I'm very busy when we're traveling.
So that brings up a question. Are you always on when you like do you always have your camera with you, or do you go in photographer mode and now I'm just in, mom, wife on vacation mode?
I have my camera. I have my camera all the time when I'm traveling. But it could also be when we are home, and I don't know, we go out for a hike, or we're for a picnic, or for, I don't know, a kids playground. I will take my camera with me. Absolutely, yeah. I have my camera with me all the time. It's heavy. It's heavy on my shoulders.
What kind of camera is it?
So it's a Canon 5D Mark III. And my go-to lens is the 24-70 millimeters, so it's pretty big and heavy,
Okay.
but I don't mind.
And now how many cameras do you own?
I'm mainly using this one, and then I have, I don't know, one, two, three, four. I don't know. I have four, so I have three digital. I have two manual. I mean, two. I would say analog. I don't know how you say it. Film.
Film. Yeah.
Yeah, I have two films, and then I have small little ones, like a Polaroid, and
Okay.
yeah, but these I don't use on a regular basis.
So it sounds like you're at a point with your photography where as a photographer, that a lot of people would want to be at. It sounds like there's some activity and work with a major client, and then you also have stuff that is more freelance ish. Um, it probably wasn't always like that. So was the journey to get there full of a lot of setbacks, frustrations? Can you tell me about like the emotional aspect of the journey to get to where you are?
Oh, yes, absolutely. No, it's never no. It's been hard because so the first thing I have to say is that I've been lucky to have a husband that was able to support me financially, and I was able to take my time to figure it out. Um, and but no, it was difficult because at the beginning I really wanted to be an artist that would sell prints in galleries. That was really what I wanted to do at the beginning. But then I realized, oh my goodness, this is gonna be so hard. In order to be famous and sell prints in galleries, there are so many of them.
Yeah.
And so this is how I started. And then I was I was in Paris. And we were organized shows with my friends um, in restaurants, in even in where do you how do you call this shop where you go to to wash your clothes?
Laundromat?
Yes. We would organize exhibitions in laundromat.
What? I
Um,
would totally
uh,
go to a exhibition in a laundromat. That sounds like a great venue.
because at first we thought, oh my God, in a restaurant, people are just eating, they're not looking at prints, and they just think it's the decor, they're not. And then we thought that laundromat, you just hear and wait. So you might as well look at art.
I think that's a great idea.
So yeah,
I think I'm going to use that. I think I'm going to take I'm taking that as a message from the universe that I need to look at that as a way to display my artwork.
please send me pictures.
Okay. Definitely.
Yes, and so after that I thought, oh, I need to start, making a living. And so the first real assignments that I got was to shoot um pictures for EMC in Paris, at the big events that they had every year. And so I started to do that, and I remember the first one I was so nervous, and the second one a little less, and the third one or even later, I was so bored with it that I thought, oh, I need to do something else
Yeah.
now. And so after that, I started to I wanted to tell stories with my pictures, and so I was constantly looking for stories to tell and to sell to the press. But that again was hard because at the time the press in especially in France was not doing very good, and they would not spend a lot of money on pictures.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they would just buy one or two, and then that was it. And so you don't, make a living by selling one or two pictures.
Yeah.
And yeah, and after that we moved to Boston. And so in Boston, definitely took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do. And this is when I started working for this stock agency in Germany. And so this was a real, yeah, Kickstarter for me.
So it sounds like you just tried different things. Did you have someone that was, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. Um, Now, where did you get the guidance for what the next thing was that you should try? Were you asking people? Did you have other people that were doing the same thing that were providing you guidance?
I definitely had a group of friends, of photographer friends, and we were supporting each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we still do. We still are looking after each other, and constantly asking each other, so what are you doing, and what's working for you, and you know what's the next thing, and their connections, because most of them are in Paris now. Their connections outside of our little group, yeah, is coming back to us and to me, and I'm enjoying the same thing here. Especially in the US, I think the market is very different. Um, there's definitely more people, but I think in the US, especially, people are more they spend how do you say, they more easily spend money on pictures than they do in France. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure where this is coming from, but
But that's what you found.
yeah. And so it was, yeah, it's so we definitely, yeah, have this little group of friends that we met at this photography school, and we, yeah, support each other for sure. It's important.
I think it's really important, and I think it's important in whatever you do. I have obviously a group of artist friends, but then I also have a group of like, because I like to run, and I have like running friends that, I run with some of them, but sometimes we just talk about running, and it helps keep me motivated. And, I can find out what races I should be running. I think it's important to stay connected with like-minded people whenever you're um, trying to do something that's challenging. It's, you don't want to go at it alone.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. Um, and in Oakland, I was able to um, meet a few women, especially there are moms from the kids that my son Paul is 5 now, so he goes to school, and he goes to a different school than my daughter goes to. And so I met all these women, and they it's a group of creative moms, and that they started in the East Bay. And so I'm really happy to be part of this group. And it's the same thing. We support each other, we help each other, we go out for drinks sometimes, and we are able to, um, yeah, to ask each other's questions and answer questions. And it's very important. I completely agree with you. Yeah. Recently, in my work, I have noticed that when I go on these assignments, that I know what to expect. I know what's coming. I know what I have to do, and I can do this. I know I can do it well, and 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 in a way, I'm a little bored,
You're right.
and so I've been thinking about how can I change that. How can I get that adrenaline back in me, uh,
Ah.
and is it and I've been wondering, because I know that I can do these jobs. I want to do something else. I want to do something new. I want to try something new, and see where it takes me, and be in a difficult situation. And yeah, I think that's what I'm looking for right now. How can I do this?
So have you always done that? Have you always somewhat mastered something and you're bored with it and you look for the next challenge? Is that kind of how it always works for you?
No, I think it's the first time that I noticed that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's the first time for this particular job. Yeah. And so I don't know, is do I need to bring new technology? Do I need to bring, I don't know, an assistant to help me with this new technology? So yeah, I've been thinking about it recently and trying to figure this out. So how can I, yeah, make it a little more challenging, try something new? Yes.
I have an idea.
Okay, tell me.
Go back to film slides.
That's a good idea.
That would be challenging.
That would be
Well, who knows?
challenging.
Maybe it wouldn't be.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
No, are you thinking from a creative standpoint or from
Hmm.
a like a tactical standpoint? From a creative standpoint?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sorry I don't have the answer to that question yet, but this is, yeah, what I've been dealing with and trying to figure out lately.
So it sounds like where you are now is very different from where you started out in terms of, the technology that's available from a photography standpoint, the tools that you're using, how you're engaging. I mean, do you miss what it was like when it was the simpler times when you were a student?
I definitely miss the time when I was free. of my time, and I was able to explore anything around me and not having any assignments, any clients, any nothing. And I was, yes,
Yeah.
able to explore. I definitely miss that, and this is one of my goal. I definitely want to make time for that in the future. I want to be able to say, okay, today I'm not working for any clients. I am just going to take my camera and this is my subject, and I'm just going to go out there and shoot around that subject or around that theme or whatever. Yes, I want to make time for that. I think it's important for my creativity process, my creative process, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a part of you that needs to be um, activated and stimulated in order for you to be a happy photographer and probably like a happy person overall. I remember I interviewed someone on my podcast, Diana, and she had said she was a mom, and she said that one of the best things that she could have done to be a good mom was being an artist, because it was she didn't use the word selfish, but it was like a time that she could just focus on herself. And she said ultimately it made her a better mom. And it sounds like something similar you're saying. Like it sounds like you need to just spend time on the pure creativity that just stimulates that part of you. And that's going to benefit, other areas of photography or probably other areas of your life too.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that. Absolutely. Yeah. And it makes me a better mom too. And a better wife.
So do you have any advice or tips for people that are listening that would help them engage the creativity in their lives?
Whatever your tool is, so whether it's paint or, you know, photography or whatever, I think never stop. Never stop creating. Never stop.
Never stop creating. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep going and don't listen to the people. Trust your guts and never stop. Yeah.
How do you keep things moving forward for yourself?
I think the passion keep things moving. I think you need to be passionate about it. I think it's important. On this trip, we've been having a lot of fun with my daughter looking at how people pose in front of monuments in Japan.
So is it done? Do they pose differently?
It's so funny. And I might actually start a series on how people pose. It's just hilarious. And we were talking
All
about
right.
and we were talking about it earlier, with the old pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've been having a lot of fun looking at people posing and taking pictures in front of monuments.
So you're taking pictures of people taking pictures of people posing.
That's right.
Now that is a series that I would want to see.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun. And then my daughter, she's also trying to mimic those poses. So it's just ridiculous.
That sounds great. So, are your children becoming photographers as well?
Well, Paul, my son, he's 5. He says he wants to be a photographer, but that's mainly because he wants to grab my phone from my hand.
Okay.
But other than that, no, I don't. I don't know.
Okay. Well, thank you so much and enjoy Japan. How much longer are you going to be? You've been there a week. How much longer are you going to be there?
Another week and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we've been to Tokyo, Kyoto. We're going today to Hiroshima, and then we're going to a little town on the ocean, and then in the mountains, and then back to Tokyo.
Oh, are you enjoying the Kit Kats over there?
Oh, we haven't
Kit Kats are huge. They have
really.
every flavor you could. Yeah, they have every flavor you could imagine. Well, no, you could actually no. They have the flavors you could never imagine. because they're flavors that you would never even think of that they make into Kit Kats.
Okay. We're going to have to look at that then.
So, Benedict, where can people see your photographs?
Yes. So I have a website. It's benedictelasalle.com. And I actually wanted to tell you about this because the series I was telling you about that I did in my grandmother's kitchen, if people want to have a look at it, it's on my website.
Excellent. I'm
So,
going to be looking at that tonight.
so there you go. So it's Bénédicte Lassale. I'm sure you can write it somewhere. It's my name, benedictelasalle.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your trip in Japan.
Thank you very much, Rick. I really enjoyed that too. Thank you.
My name is Ricky McGuckran, and you have been listening to Eager to Know, the podcast. If you haven't already, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join me next week for another Eager to Know podcast.